Hey guys, so forgive my frizz. I'm about to flat iron my hair while I do this video. I don't know, sometimes I come up with a video idea and I'm like, you know what, that's okay on its own, but why not show how I go from a hot mess to a normal person? So for anyone who's interested, I use the Graveyard Girl flat iron. I think it's pretty cool, and I use it to like straighten curl, which you'll see, and I've done a tutorial on that. So if you are interested in exactly how I do it, there's a tutorial somewhere down in my videos. Today I thought that I would sort of react to 2 of the movies that are coming out this year. This is the 50th anniversary. Let me make sure my math is right. My math used to be so good. And now I'm old. Yes, it's the 50th anniversary. It's the 50th anniversary of the Manson murders. And because of that, there are 3 movies coming out this year, 3 big release movies coming out this year about Sharon Tate. Only one of them, and this one, there is not a trailer for it yet. I believe that there's some stills of what the actress looks like, and she looks okay, in my opinion, and no shade against her, but Kate Bosworth is in the only film that is being backed, sort of like supported by Sharon's family, and the only person left in Sharon's immediate family still living is her sister Deborah. And Deborah has always been very hands-on with anything to do with Sharon, anything to do with, you know, like parole hearings and stuff for the killers, and, you know, and just anything to do with the case. She is always kind of on top of it. You've probably seen her. If you've seen any Manson documentary, you've probably seen Deborah Tate. She tends to stay up front with everything so as to keep her sister's memory alive and to remind people what everybody went through, and why she feels that these people should stay in prison, they should die in prison, you know, all that. So she is backing the film starring Kate Bosworth as Sharon Tate. That trailer has not been released yet as of today when I'm filming this. The still that I've seen of her is okay. I'm like, I mean, you can't find an exact lookalike of Sharon Tate, but I feel like the best of the 3 actresses who are playing her this year is Margot Robbie. Now, I love Margot Robbie anyway, so I'm a little bit biased, but I think she really, she's such a beauty like Sharon Tate was, and not that Kate Bosworth isn't beautiful, and not that the 3rd actress isn't beautiful, but I feel like Margot Robbie visually fits Sharon Tate better than any of them. But the reason it's being backed, I don't think is because of the actresses. I think it's because of the writing and the way the movies are taking her story. And I understand Deborah's reasoning for that, especially considering one of them that I don't even think should have been made, should be released, anything. But I'll talk about all 3 of them. I don't know much at all about the Kate Bosworth film. I think it's sort of just a film of Sharon's last days, coinciding with the Mansons planning all the Manson family planning the killings, and you know what led up to it and whatnot. If you don't know anything about that, go research it. You'll delve in deep, and good luck getting out, because it's very interesting. It's very deep-seated in Hollywood. There are so many ties to the Manson murders. It's insane, which is why it's cheesy to say and it's pretty basic to say, but I think it's one of my favorite true crime stories just because the reach of it goes so far. You can be sitting and watching a movie one day, and something in that movie has something to do with the Manson murders, and it's nothing that you would think that it would be. It might be like a classical film, or it might be, you know, some heartwarming film that was just filmed in a place where, oh, that's where Charlie Manson went to high school, or yeah, stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff like that. There's constant links between the Manson murders and Hollywood, so that's why I like it so much. I like learning about it so much because it reaches so far. So as I stated, I don't know much about the Kate Bosworth film yet. I think I read a synopsis on it somewhere, but I don't know that that was confirmed, so all I'm gonna say is what I've already said about it. The Margot Robbie film, I'm excited about personally. I still understand why Deborah Tate may not be that excited about it, because it is sensationalizing a little bit, but it's not. It doesn't seem to be sensationalizing the murders, because it's not technically about the murders, is from the trailer what I'm seeing. I'm gonna watch the trailer and I'll insert little screenshots of it so I can explain certain parts and why I think this and why it's sort of been explained this way too. And then we'll get on to the worst one. So the movie's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's a Quentin Tarantino film, which I love Quentin Tarantino. I think people need to keep in mind that, and I think this is why there's sort of a distance in the film between what's going on and between the actual murders, because Quentin tends to have a sense of not being in reality. His films are not in reality. Like, for instance, if you like Kill Bill and you know the scene where she is fighting Johnny Moe and the Crazy 88, there's scenes where they're just like flying, you know, like randomly out of nowhere. They're fighting normal and then they can just suddenly fly up to a second story. It's stuff like that. It's suspension of belief. So I think that that is probably, and I hope this is true, that's probably why the story, the original story, isn't about Sharon, because they wanted to separate it and have this sort of suspension and the separation so as to be respectful as they could, but still include Sharon's story in the film. So I'm gonna get started with the first film, and this isn't gonna be a reaction video where I'm sitting here staring and doing nothing. This is not a reaction video. I guess it's more of a trailer breakdown while I do my hair, so I'm gonna get started with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So in the film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio is playing an actor in Hollywood in the late 1960s. I don't know if this all takes place within 1969 or if it takes place just, you know, in the years leading up to the murders or around it. Brad Pitt is playing Leonardo DiCaprio's stunt double. Now, I do find it interesting. I can never say the word interesting. I do find it interesting that in the trailer, it seems like they are filming this interview. It seems like they're filming an interview on Spahn Ranch. Now, I don't believe that that's true. I'd be surprised if it was. But then again, with a Quentin Tarantino film, it could be. Suspension of disbelief or belief, whatever. For those of you who are unaware of the Manson murders, the Manson family lived on Spahn Ranch during their time in Hollywood and Haight-Ashbury. They went to this it was an old movie set for like westerns and such. So it was all kinds of, you know, lines of shops and places, bars and stuff like that, like the Old West looks. And they asked the owner, George Spahn, if they could stay there. And in turn, they would take care of the land and, you know, whatnot. And he agreed. So that's where the Manson family lived while they were involved in all these murders and such. So the trailer opens with a Western in the background. So I can't help but wonder if it's Spahn Ranch, maybe a few years before the murders, you know, before they really before they moved into the ranch. That's my suspicion, and that would be pretty cool. It wouldn't be accurate because I don't think that ranch had been used for filming for years, maybe even a decade or more. But for the sake of this movie, I think it would be interesting if that's what they're doing. We cut to a quick shot of Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate, just sort of dancing to some music, it looks like, in her living room. It looks like she's on Cielo Drive. There is some films of her in that home just dancing around being silly, so it looks like that's probably what they're trying to reenact here, and she looks really good as Sharon, in my opinion. We then cut to a couple shots of driving through Hollywood and just sort of the Hollywood scene. If I can break away for a second just to speak about the movie posters. Apparently there was some flack. I don't know where to put this piece of hair right now. Apparently there was some flack for the movie posters. I don't know for how simple they looked. Them just sort of standing next to a car with Hollywood in the background. But I think that's the point of it. I think the point of the movie is that Haight-Ashbury, Hollywood in the late 1960s is sort of the background of the film. The foreground of the film is the main characters. I don't know how much Sharon Tate is going to be a lead character, or if she's more in the background or sort of middle ground of that. But Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt are the main storyline in the film. So everything else is happening in the background. I think the posters clearly spell that out, but apparently a lot of people were upset by them. So we're just getting a glimpse now of what Hollywood, probably the Hollywood Strip, looked like in the late 60s. We then get to a couple clips of the Manson girls. There's one of them skipping down a dirt road somewhere in the woods, which would be probably near Spahn Ranch. They had some different caves and stuff. Not exactly caves, but like quarries that they would go to and listen to Manson preach. And they hitchhiked and all that. And then there's one that looks like they're at Spawn Ranch, so the old dilapidated buildings and stuff. So probably Sadie, probably Patricia Krenwinkel, all those girls are sort of what we're getting a glimpse of here. Then the best part, in my opinion, Bruce Lee. So it looks as though Brad Pitt is going to be doing a fight scene with Bruce Lee. I'm not sure the film that they're doing in this. I could probably easily look it up, but Bruce Lee was, you know, costumed similarly in a lot of his movies, so it's not super simple to tell just from a glance. But he, supposedly, Bruce Lee trained Sharon Tate for a film. He trained her in karate, martial arts, so that she could do a certain fight scene in a film. And she is the link between him getting the role of Kato. So I was really excited that they put him in here. He was close with Sharon. He carried guilt a lot of years over her death, feeling like maybe if he'd have been around or something, he could have, you know, stopped it or something like that, which obviously there was nothing he could have done. But they were pretty close from what I've heard, and she's the reason he got the role that he did. She's the reason that he had the opportunity to get the role. Now, obviously, he carried the role and made it what it was, but she just was his connection into that world, and was able to get him a really big role and help build his name. I do have to put a little side note in here for fans of other Tarantino films. In my opinion, Brad Pitt's character sounds like Aldo Raine from Inglourious Basterds, just without the Tennessee accent. And that's like, I'm from Tennessee. That's a woodsy Tennessee accent. But he sounds like Aldo Raine, the way he delivers his lines, kind of matter of fact and shouting. I thought that was interesting. So we get a lot of flashbacks between what looks to be Spawn Ranch and what looks to be Hollywood, just sort of comparing the two lives. We get a really funny shot of Leonardo DiCaprio doing some weird dance on a show, so obviously like some role that he got. And then I believe we get a shot of Charlie. If it's not Charlie, it's probably Tex or some other guy, Bobby Beausoleil, someone else who might have been on the at Spawn Ranch at the time. But that's definitely a setting of Spawn Ranch, because up until a few years ago even, there was still, and there still might be, cars that are just buried in the ground up there from over time, and they've got bullet holes in them because they used to just sit up there and practice shooting. And he's literally sitting in front of an old dilapidated car with bullet holes in it. So that's definitely Charlie or one of his followers in that shot. I would put money on it that it's Charlie. So yeah, that concludes the Once Upon a Time trailer, which is the only trailer that they've released so far. I think it looks really good. I think it looks entertaining. I think it looks exciting. I hope it's not disrespectful to Sharon and the other victims of the murders. But it seems to be that they're going to be more of a backdrop of the film. And again, it's going to be based around these other actors who are trying to make it, and probably the impact that the Manson murders had on Hollywood at the time. And now we get on to, in my opinion, the worst one. Now, again, nothing's been released about the Kate Bosworth one. I hope that one's really good, since Deborah's semi-involved in it, from what I've heard. But this one is just a fucking joke to me. I'm shocked that they made it this far. I'm shocked that the trailers have been released and it hasn't been pulled. I honestly hope it gets pulled, in my opinion, because it just looks terrible and disrespectful. When you're working with something where the victims' immediate families are still alive, you really need to be respectful. You really don't need to delve into this fantasy world and think, okay, they died a horrible death. Let me take that and make it like a cat and mouse jump scare movie, like, and add all these layers to it that are not originally a part of the story. Like, it pissed me off so much when I saw this trailer. I was so offended on behalf of Sharon and her family, let alone Wojtek Frykowski, Abigail Folger, everybody else involved, like Stephen Parent. There are so many people that their immediate families are still here, and you're making a scary movie out of it. Like, okay, if you want to use the story, do something like The Strangers. If for those of you who don't know, the movie The Strangers that came out, gosh, I don't even know, what, 10 years ago now? That was loosely based on the Manson murders and a couple other killings. And that was respectful because they weren't using the exact same characters. They could change the story a little bit. They could make it dramatic, make it a scary movie, and not offend anybody. And not, like, lie about somebody's last days. Like, I don't get it. It's so over the top and ridiculous. And if you watch the trailer, I'll link it below, you'll see what I mean. But I guarantee you there's gonna be more screenshots of the trailer when I'm talking about it now, because it's gonna piss me off all over again. God, I hope this film gets pulled, because this is just a fucking joke. So this one is called The Haunting of Sharon Tate. Like The Haunting of Hill House, like The Haunting of anything else. And it's starring Hilary Duff. No shade against Hilary Duff, but I don't think they did a good job of making her look like Sharon. Her accent that she's trying to put on, I believe, is completely wrong. I get what she's going for. If you watch a lot of things behind the scenes of Sharon, talking about her schooling, talking about acting, all that, she definitely has a way of speaking, but I don't think Hilary's like hitting that mark at all, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but it's just a mess to me. It almost sounds like she's trying to put on like a British accent of some sort or something, or be more proper than Sharon sounded. I don't get it. But Sharon took her acting very seriously. She went to classes and everything for it. She trained. There's a great interview of her where she's talking about, you know, if this is your craft, you have to take it seriously. And you know, I've been preparing and I've been going to school and learning dialect and learning this and learning that before being put on screen. They're tapping into that part of Sharon, is what I can, from what I can tell, but they're missing the mark. The other thing is, this seems to be based on a story of Sharon back when she was still engaged to Jay Sebring, who was also murdered. They used to live together. And when they were living together, apparently Sharon went, like, I think she heard a noise or something like that in the middle of the night, and she went to go downstairs in their house, and at the bottom of the stairs she saw an image of herself hanging with her throat cut. Now, I don't know the validity of this because she told it to Jay, and then Jay told it to other people, and her and Jay are sadly both passed on. But she believed that she sort of saw her own demise. Now, as far as I know, that's the only time she had this premonition. From what I can tell and from what I've read, this movie is going to make it seem like she's known, she keeps getting all these weird premonitions. And while she's at the Cielo house, which isn't even where the original premonition actually happened, like, she's so suspicious that something's gonna happen, but Sharon had no fucking clue of what was coming. Like, if she did, she wouldn't have been there. Or maybe they would have been on, you know, more prepared or more on guard, especially when you see the way they are fucking advertising this shit. Like, it's so offensive. Let me just get started. I'm dreading this, I really am. So we get a shot of Sharon in her home at Cielo Drive, walking up to a record player because it's playing some music, and then suddenly something goes wrong with the record, and then something makes her jump. So we get a jump scare in the beginning of the fucking trailer. We get actual interviews of Susan Atkins from prison not long after she was put there and sort of detoxed off of all the drugs that they had been on. That's another thing that bothers me about this trailer and this movie. I don't know if the other ones didn't have the rights to this and they got the rights to use it. I don't know if this is public domain at this point or if they just chose to capitalize off of it. But this film, the trailer uses Charles Manson's actual music and music with his girls singing and stuff, and I just think that that's so distasteful. We then cut to a clip of Sharon Tate waking up from a nightmare, and previous to this it's showing scenes of Abigail Folger being stabbed and I believe Wojtek Frykowski being stabbed, and Sharon wakes up in the middle of the night screaming, and Abigail comes running in, and Sharon's crying, saying, I had a dream they were all killing us. Somebody please help me, all this stuff. We cut to another shot of someone at the door of the Cielo home. Now, at the time of the murders, Sharon had just got back from Europe, where she was with her husband Roman on a film set. And she was getting closer to her due date, so she decided to fly back to America, and Roman was going to follow shortly after. And she was staying with some friends who they had asked to watch the house. So then when she got home, she said, can you stay with me so that she's not home by herself, 9 months pregnant? And of course they stayed, and sadly that ended up putting them in the position where they were on that night. Now, I think that this is referencing months prior, before she ever went to Europe. Sharon was living there. I believe she was pregnant already, and Charlie came looking for Terry Melcher. Terry Melcher is the son of Doris Day, and he was a record producer. He was, in Charlie's mind, his link into getting his music out there and becoming a big rock star. Terry listened to his music, wasn't that impressed, didn't give him a record deal. And he never heard back from Terry. It pissed him off a lot, so he went to Terry's house to ask him, like, what the hell is going on? You know, are you going to give me a record deal or not? And the guy there told him, you know, Terry doesn't live here anymore. Maybe the people you're looking for. And this was, when he came and knocked on the door, I think it was either a photographer or like a friend of Sharon's or someone who didn't live there and didn't know the land. So he asked for Terry Melcher, and they said, no, this is the Tate Polanski residence. And he said, maybe the people you're looking for are out back, talking about, like, I guess the caretaker's house. And from a distance, Sharon saw him, and he saw Sharon. And from what I have researched and from what I can see, this is the only time they saw each other, and this is the only time they interacted, including the night of her murder, because Charlie was not there for her murder. He did set it up, but he wasn't there. So in this, the guy's like answering the door going, I told you already, dude, you got the wrong house. And I'm like how many fucking times did Charlie come back? You don't think that looks suspicious? Like, he didn't keep hunting that one house. At least not knocking on their fucking door over and over again. I mean, that would be suspicious. You can't go and kill people that you keep knocking on their door asking for the same person over and over and over again. Like, that's going to get linked back to you, especially if supposedly, and this is Vincent Bugliosi's story, the lawyer who put the Manson family behind bars, especially if the story is that he did it for the Black Panthers to start a race war. Why would a white guy want to make himself a suspect if you want to set it up like black people did it? I mean, there's so much logic dropped in this that's very obvious logic if you know anything about the case. There's some shot of Sharon and a friend who I assume is Abigail walking out in the woods somewhere on a dirt road, and there's another girl there who looks like one of Manson's girls, and they're kind of frightened looking from her, which, as far as I know, that never happened. They didn't even live that close to each other. Like, Spawn Ranch is not near Cielo Drive. That's kind of the point of why they went and drove over there. It was a little farther away. It was in the Hollywood Hills. Anyways, they get freaked out by her, and then we get Charlie's version of Never Learned Not to Love, which his version was called Cease to Exist, and it was a Beach Boys song. So if you ever heard the Beach Boys Never Learned Not to Love, that's originally a Charles Manson song. Then we cut to, I hope to God I'm wrong about this. So it looks like Stephen Parent, which is a completely innocent bystander when it comes to the Manson family. He was there that night visiting the caretaker, trying to sell him something, and was leaving when they came up upon him in his car and shot him. Whoever they're getting to play whatever this role is, I hope to God it's not Stephen Parent talking to Sharon Tate, because that didn't happen. He's playing a record, and from the trailer it's making it sound like it's Charlie's Cease to Exist, but it could be something else. and he's saying interesting. There's subliminal messaging in this. And I'm like, fuck off. Like, stop. This is ridiculous. So Charlie sent Sharon some music, which never happened. So then he plays the tape, I'm guessing in reverse, and you hear all this whispering or chanting from a group of people saying something that sounds like, let them see us, let them know us. That never fucking happened. This is so beyond offensive and so beyond inaccurate. And let me reinstate why this is so offensive. Sharon Tate's immediate family is still fucking alive. Her husband is still alive. Her sister is still alive. And now we're acting like she had all these warning signs that they all ignored or something. Like, fuck off. And then we cut to a shot of Hillary Duff freaking out saying, these people are a threat to me, to my safety, and to the safety of my baby. And again, Sharon didn't know any of these people. She didn't know anything was gonna happen. She didn't know that her life was at threat. Because guess what? The only person who knew that was Charlie and Tex. Even leading up to the murder, the girls didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They were just following orders. Not to say that they weren't, like, culpable, because trust me, they fucking were. Especially if you hear about what Susan Atkins did. They went above and beyond to torture these people and kill them. But it was not this big, long, prolonged, planned thing where they, like, taunted her and planned her murder. That's not how this happened. Then we get a whole bunch of cat and mouse scene looking things where Sharon is, like, sneaking around the house, and there's people sneaking around trying to find her, similar to the strangers. Again, the strangers did it the right way. Why the fuck are we messing with Sharon's exact story and just throwing it out the goddamn window? I don't know. I don't understand. This is really fucking irritating. Then we cut to, again, this Stephen Parent looking character, which I hope it's not. But I don't believe it's Wojtek Krakowski, and I know it's not supposed to be Jay Sebring, because Jay Sebring didn't look anything like that. Neither did Wojtek, but he is looking at Sharon saying, the line's dead, the phone line's dead. While, yes, they did cut the phone lines that night, they never had a fucking chance to get to the phone to even try and call the police, so that's kind of irrelevant. Second of all, why the fuck is Stephen Parent with Sharon Tate saying the phone line is dead? He wasn't with her. Like, he was never with her that night. He was with the caretaker out back in a completely separate fucking building. He was leaving and got shot before Sharon and them even knew something was going on. Ugh. Oh my god, she's in the fucking car with Steven. She's in the car trying to escape. Oh my god. Does this mean, wait, what does this mean? Because Steven was the first person to get killed and Sharon was the last person to get killed. And there was a lot that went on in between. So how the fuck did this happen? Are they saying that everyone in the house is fine and Sharon and Steven just fucking dipped and left everybody trying to get the two of them out? And then Steven gets killed and she gets out of the car and runs back in the house or some shit? Like, where the hell is this going? I'm getting really fucking heated over this. This is so bad. Look at my face. It's turning red. I'm getting so heated because this is so offensive. This is wrong. Okay, another play into the stupid cat and mouse shit. Abigail Folger is now up on the, if you've ever seen the inside of CLO Drive or if you've seen the crime scene photos, they had, I don't even know how to describe it, but basically like railing up there where they had, you know, a pointed ceiling and then there was these beams across the top. They were open. So they had discussed hanging the bodies over the beams that night, which is why Sharon and Jay, their bodies were found with rope around their neck, but they were never hung. But they had discussed hanging them over these beams. There's a shot here of Abigail Folger hiding up in the fucking beams, covering her mouth so she's not making a noise. Like, when the fuck did she get up there? Because this all happened really fucking fast, let me tell you. There's some scene in what looks to be a trailer. I'm guessing they're trying to pass this off as the caretaker building. And it looks like Stephen Parent is hitting someone with a shovel. I was unaware there was a fucking shovel fight that night because, once again, Stephen was leaving when they arrived and that's when he got shot. But he's fighting someone with a shovel. Oh my god. Sharon's walking into some barn or some shit to shoot somebody. This didn't happen. As far as I know, Sharon never even had her hand on a gun the whole night. If she could have, she would have, but she didn't. Because there wasn't one for her to grab. The only gun that there was being used to beat the shit out of Jay and Wojtek. So I didn't see it in this trailer. All 3 trailers that I had saved were the same one. But there was another trailer where the music that was sent to Sharon had like Sharon, Sharon, Sharon written all over it. Like Charlie was obsessed with her. Like, fuck off. This is so irritating and so like disrespectful. I hope this film gets pulled. I hope it doesn't make it to theaters. And if it does, I hope it has the worst reviews because it looks awful and it's so disrespectful. So that's my thinking on the 2 trailers that are out so far. Whenever we see from the Kate Bosworth one, I'll be happy to review that trailer as well. But please comment below if you have any suggestions of things you'd like to see. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Leave me a hate comment if you didn't like it. And subscribe if you'd like to see more. And I will see you guys next week.